Okay, it's a very warm day today. So we start nice and slow, and we're also going to start down on the ground, so probably where it's going to be coolest. I'm going to use the block behind my head, come into Shavasana. Now it's a Shavasana, but I'm going to keep my knees high and just allow myself to take the arms out wide and let the knees kind of rock in a little bit, so the feet are slightly wider than when I would normally be in this position. And just trying to let the spine sink down to the floor first of all. And noticing if I'm carrying any tension in the shoulders, I'm going to try and relax that as well. Let them soften off a little bit. Just check that your neck is in as neutral position as you can. For some people, putting the block behind the head doesn't really work. They find that their neck doesn't feel right. So if you're feeling that kind of sensation that it's not quite as flat as it could be, then allow yourself to move the blocks out by all means. I guess at the end of the day, I'm not worried about having a ponytail or anything around the back there to get in the way. So my head sort of moves naturally to an easy place to be. The lips a few times. And allow the muscles in the face particularly to soften off. And then starting to listen to the breath. And just noticing where it is. Not really trying to do anything with it, other than breathe in and breathe out. If you can, try to slow your breath down a little bit, maybe by half. Not to the point where it disturbs you or causes any strain or stress, but just letting it slow down naturally, as if you're starting to fall asleep. Maybe you are. So wriggle the toes and the fingers. Kind of bring ourselves back into our body a little more. And then with the arms outstretched, to the sides, a bend at the elbows, bring the fingertips onto the collarbones. You can come into some angel wings, and we'll scoop the elbows down towards the ribs and then across the chest, elbows touch. Inhale the elbows towards the back of the mat. And allow the elbows to go out wide, touching the floor, and just drawing them along the ground gently. So depending on where you have that block, or if you've got the block causing you a few issues, you might need to move it around a little bit, or you can take it out. I'm roughly keeping the fingertips on the top of the shoulders, the collarbone area, but moving them around a little bit, particularly as my arms come down by the sides of my body, they tend to fall away a little bit. I take the arms in the opposite direction, just for a couple of rotations. Saying hello to the shoulders, seeing how they feel. The arms go out wide to the highest point, and then I bring the elbows up towards the sky, down to the chest. Let the arms float out to the side again. Draw both knees in towards the body. Put the hands around the shins or the knees. Just stir the knees gently around in some big circles. Now you can take both knees in the same direction, or you can move the knees in opposite directions. So still getting circles. One is going to give you a bit more of a rotational movement through the spine as your knees go from side to side together. And if you're moving with the knees in big circles in opposite directions, you can get a little bit of a lateral, a flexion and extension in the spine. You can feel the pelvis just rock around underneath you a little bit. The lower back kind of moves into the floor and then lifts a little bit, just as you get that tiny little pelvic tilt. Bring the legs back down to the ground, keeping them close in towards the body. And take a breath and draw right knee in towards the body. I'm going to take the hands around the shin and slide the heel of the left leg out to the end of the mat. I'm going to do my best to lengthen out through the heel with a flexed foot, toes towards the sky, rotating the thigh inwards if your leg rolls out to the side naturally. I'm trying to lengthen the leg out so that I can begin to feel not only my leg lengthening away, but also sort of the top of my hip, my pelvis starts to move in that direction as well. And the calf and the heel are against the ground in my body, but we're just trying to get a straight leg without pressing the knee down. That's the important thing to take there. And I'm going to slide the leg back in. Drop both feet to the ground close to your bottom. And allow the left leg to come in. Take the hands around the shin. Slide your right heel out, as best you can down the center line of the mat. You might need a cheeky little look to see if you've achieved that or whether it's gone out wayward to the corners. And you flex the foot, toes towards the sky. Imagine that you were lying on the ground, but your foot was against the wall and you're kind of pushing yourself away from the wall. And we'll release the left foot to the ground, close to the bottom, and draw the right leg back in. We'll take a simple spinal twist. We'll allow the arms to go out wide, crucifix style, so the hands are in line with the chest, a little lower than the shoulders, and definitely lower than the head. Move the hips slowly over towards the left a little, and let the legs roll down towards the right. And we want this to be a passive stretch here first thing in the class. So we're going to let the bottom leg sink down and then just let the top leg relax where it is. Doing my best to keep the shoulders flat to the ground. Some people like to turn their head the opposite way to the knees. So in this case, would be over towards the left. That feels good in your neck and your shoulders by all means, but otherwise just keeping the head facing towards the sky. And we'll slowly bring the legs back up. Move across to the opposite side. And legs down. To the left. Come back to the center. Realign the spine. Take the block out from behind the back of the head and just place the hands loosely interlaced around the back of the skull with the elbows out wide to the side, hopefully touching the floor. And draw the tummy muscles down and the spine in towards the floor, and then lift the knees one at a time over the hips. The shins parallel to the ground, so you've got a nice right angle, the shins and the thighs, and the body flat to the ground. I'm going to take some crossover twists here. So I'm going to start to move and lift my left shoulder towards my right knee and extend out through the left leg, 45 degrees to the floor. Come back in, lay all the way down to the ground. I'm going to try and keep the rear elbow on the floor. And rather than pulling the top elbow towards the knee, focus on trying to draw the shoulder through. So if the elbow happens to touch the knee, well, that is by luck more than design. And it's going to move through very slowly. So a couple of minutes. So plenty of time to practice. If you need to take an extra breath at the bottom, by all means do. I'm trying to roll the body up slowly and rotate. Just fatigue, obviously it gets harder to lift and roll across. Almost there. Breathing through. You can inhale the way down. The exhale will come up. And then we're finished. Head back to the ground. Let the arms come out wide again. The knees where they were. We're just going to roll the legs gently over towards the left. So hopefully you've got that 90-degree bend. We're trying to keep the knees a little closer together. So if you are able to squeeze the thighs together and touch, great, but it's getting close to that point. We want to hover with the foot and the knee of the lower leg just fractionally off the ground. You don't need to look. You just take the leg over as far as you comfortably can. Estimate with your eyes closed where the floor is. You put your hand out there to give you a little bit of perception of where it is. And we'll slowly draw the legs back up. Still trying to keep that nice 90-degree-ish angle. We'll roll through the spine very gently and allow ourselves to move to the opposite side. Hovering in, keeping the shoulders flat on the floor. Slowly lift the legs back up. Once you come back up fully, we'll draw the knees in towards the chest. Just wrap the arms around the shins. Give ourselves a nice strong hug. And then roll to whichever side you like. Use your hands to lift up. Come into a seated posture. You can block out to the side. And feet out in front. We're going to take the feet about as wide as the mat, comfortable distance, so not super wide, but wider. And bring the hands in towards the heart with the elbows lifted. So got this nice position. We're sitting upright. Tummy muscles are having to activate a little bit. And then we're slowly going to start to churn the middle. So we'll lean out to the left, take it forwards, roll across to the right, lean back a little bit, and then just keep moving through. So you do feel that you're rolling around on the edge of your sitting bones. They might even creak and crack a little bit. Try to press out through the heels of the legs with the feet flexed up towards the sky, spreading the toes out a little bit so the legs are nice and active and pressing down. If your knees are lifted off the floor a little bit, that's fine, but just try and keep them in a stable position. Hands just in front of the heart, the elbows are high as the shoulders. And you might find that those circles get a little bigger as you kind of warm yourself into it. We'll take it a couple of times in the opposite direction. And come back into the center. We'll scoop the legs up, roll them in, cross the ankles over, and roll through up onto all fours. Now slowly allow yourself to take your right leg, then your left leg back, and bring yourself up onto your knuckles. And your hands definitely need to be just underneath your shoulders. Thumbs are pointing forwards. And it's a shoulder shrug. So drop the shoulders or the chest forwards and down. Push forwards a little bit on the tippy toes. Lift back up. Move the heels towards the back of the mat. So it's just a very small movement. It's kind of like a shoulder shrug deluxe. We're moving the whole body around. Try not to bob the head too much. You can do this with the hands flat to the floor if it feels easier. Depends on your wrists. Okay, and then bring the knees back down to the floor. Untucking the hands, fists. Take a little time to kind of release. We'll move into cat-cow. So just drawing the chest forwards, tailbone to the sky. Tilting the pelvis, spine lifts. Move forwards. Exhale back. Into neutral. Swivel the feet out to the side. Let the bottom come down. Legs out in front into Dandasana. So feet together, flex towards us. Just draw the flesh out a little bit if it helps to lift you up to sit a little bit more upright. We're going to take that into a twist. So I'm going to take the left hand forwards, right hand behind. And then we'll slowly take that to the second side. The legs are still active, pressing into that imaginary wall. And we'll release. I'm going to take the block wide ways between the two palms, and then take the hands out in front of the chest to start with. Legs are still active. Make sure you're sitting really upright. And slowly extend your arms up towards the sky, holding on to the block. And as you exhale, bring the hands down out in front of your chest. Now, as you're doing this, rotate your inner thighs slightly inwards as you press out through the heels and the feet. Just moving the hands very slowly with your breath from out in front of your chest to above your head. And keep those thighs rolling in. So the feet are very flat against that imaginary wall. Come up for the last time. Allow the block to come all the way down. Just put it out to the side. Take your feet about hip distance apart. Hands come behind the body. We're leaning towards the back of the mat a little bit, a few degrees. And we're going to point the toes forwards. Take a breath. Start to lift the hips towards the sky into reverse tabletop. So trying to get the soles of the feet flat to the floor, which is some idea of how high you need to lift the hips. So press the shoulders down through the hands. So keep the chin just a little tucked in towards the chest to keep the neck safe. You can extend it out, follow the line of the spine, as long as you feel confident that you can hold your head in that position without sort of dropping, crashing down towards the floor. You want to be careful of the nerve endings in the neck. So you can extend out if that feels comfortable for you to do. We'll take a last breath here. And then slowly roll ourselves back down. Take the feet wider apart as we sit up tall. Allow the hands to come forwards. And just come into a kind of seated wide leg forward bend. Pressing out through the heels. And then allow your fingers to walk out towards your big toes. Draw your elbows out wide. Keep the belly drawn in. Hinge over the hips. So keep it soft in the back. There's length in the body. Rather than trying to bring your head down to the ground. Just think about drawing your chest forwards. Take a breath from there and release. As we come back up, we're going to take the left foot in towards the groin. Shin and knee to the floor. I'm going to turn the body towards that left knee and take the right hand out onto the right shin. I'm going to wrap the left arm around towards the right hip, so it's behind the body. I'm opening the chest a little, and then lift up and lean out towards that right leg. Allow yourself to take your index finger, middle finger around the big toe, trying to get to the position where your shin and your elbow meet, and then constantly thinking about lifting up and out to the side. A little bit of pressure on that bent left leg, pressing down, keeping your foundation anchored to the floor, like a root. Let your body grow from the base out to the side. Release from there. Come back. We're also going to take the legs out to the second side. So heel comes in. Press the knee down a little bit. Wrap your arm gently around. You want to try and keep the shoulder fairly relaxed, but taking these fingers behind you as far as you can. Left hand goes out to the side as we sit upright. Rotate a little bit more. And then start to lean out. So walking the fingers out towards the foot. Easing the fingers around the big toes so we get a little bit of a lock. And then leaning out further till, in my case, my shin and my elbow meet. That's far enough for me to lean in. And then again, pressing down through the roots, lifting up and out. To the side of your body, lengthening and keeping the chest nice and open. It's, you're actually rotating the ribs from the lower set of ribs under you. You're rotating those up towards the sky a little bit. Bring it from the body rather than the shoulders or the head. You can release from there as well. Now just cross the legs over as we come back in. Tuck the heels underneath and lift up onto the knees, back onto all fours. You take child's pose. So just sitting gently back. Knees are not quite in parallel with each other, but not as wide as the mat. They're sort of a happy distance. So it's easy for me to rest my head against the ground. You can always grab a block and place that underneath so that doesn't happen. Ideally, the shoulders are nice and broad and relaxed. The hands are same distance apart as the shoulders feel. The elbows are off of the ground. Breathing in nice and gently. So take the hands around to the right side. So we're taking it into a little bit of a sidey bend. Letting the body rest into the thigh. So as we breathe, the body makes space on the opposite side. And then looking up, we'll bring the hands over to the opposite side. And then we can bring ourselves forwards. Ourselves to lift up slowly. Going to come down onto the elbows. Lengthen the legs out slowly. You want to have a little bit of room in front of you so that you can extend your hands out fully in front in a moment. You're going to allow the hands to come down to the bottom of the ribs, drawing the elbows in. We're just going to flow through some low cobra. Inhaling the chest away from the ground, shoulders back, and exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Pretty simple. If you're able to, try to roll the heels outwards and you keep the legs connected to the ground. You want to press down a little bit and away. We'll try for the last time. Allow the hands to come forwards, right out in front, shoulder distance apart. Turn the palms side on, so little finger is on the ground, thumbs towards the sky. And then lift the chest a little, so it's easy to look towards your hands. You're going to keep that lift in the body. And take a breath in, and allow yourself to lift your right hand as high away from the floor as you can. You can press it a little into the left and come back down. Inhale the left side up and come back down. So that little lift in the body, we're trying to at least bring the arms to feel like the hands are over the top of the shoulders in this position. So if you've lifted high in your body, you're going to be lifting your arms high as well. But you don't need to go higher than that. Okay. You can keep the chest lifted. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do it with the legs. So I'm going to take a breath in, lengthen the legs away. Slowly lift the thigh of your left leg away from the ground. You find yourself naturally pressing through the right a little bit. And then we'll take the right up. Come back down. So trying to keep the legs straight, toes pointed out. Left leg lifts. Down. Cross over, right. Working through. The body that little lifted. Last lift. Keeping the body lifted still. I'm going to see if we can lift crossways. So right arm and left leg on the inhale coming up. and back down, and then over to the other side. Nice slow movements, following the breath. Last one. Now allow the hands to come back underneath your chin, elbows out wide. So you lay to the floor. Wriggle the hips out a little. And take the hands slowly down to the side of the body, but this time the palms are face down, so thumbs are out. The chin lays gently against the ground. So we want to work on the legs again in the lift, so we're working into those hip flexors and back muscles, but we're going to try not to press the chin down into the floor or the forehead. So keep the body long, think about lengthening it out, get a feeling of drawing your head towards the front end of the mat. On your exhale, lift your left thigh away from the ground, high as you can, and then bring that slowly back down. Now, obviously, it's difficult for you to see, but we're going to take the leg on the opposite side up, and just notice whether that feels like it's getting as high, whether it feels as balanced to do so. Does it feel like the power's there? Can you coordinate through? Just hovering the chin lightly against the floor so we're not pressing, lengthening the body out, legs are lifting, sonating from side to side, bring them down gently so we don't crash into the floor. Trying to keep the hips or the two front hip bones that sit above the waist as close to the ground as possible. Try not to lift off the floor. We'll come to the last side right time. And last time for the lefty leg. Perfect. Take a breath, bring the hands down to the bottom of the ribs, elbows in, shoulders in. We'll lift up onto all fours. I'm going to bring the knees forwards a little bit so that I can sit gently down onto the heels. Allow myself to sit up tall. And just roll those shoulders around. And the muscles in the back have been working quite nicely. So you're going to feel maybe a little bit of release from the work we've done. Then we'll roll the shoulders gently around the opposite way. Let the arms float out wide. We're going to come into swan flow. So bring the hands directly above. Let the fingers lift up so your arms are almost against your ears. Draw your tummy muscles in. Allow yourself to hinge slowly forwards. You're going to try and keep the hands directly above the shoulders. Come down. When the hands touch the floor, we can release the fingers. Use an exhale of breath to roll the spine back up to that sitting position. Inhale high. Index finger lifts. Come all the way down slowly. Take a breath. spine out. We'll do 5, so that's number 2. Try and press the tailbone back a little bit as you come down. Use your core muscles to slow yourself down as you come into this. Last time. Allow the hands to separate wide, lift onto all fours. We'll move into down dog. Stretch the back of the legs out a little. Lifting the hips high and back. Move slowly through some salutations with variations. We'll walk the hands to start with towards the feet, coming into the back of the mat to a forward bend. Let's go onto the hips. With soft knees and flat backs, we lift. We'll shake it all out as we walk in towards the front of the mat. Time for a sip of water, if you're feeling as warm as I am. Try to have that water, if you're going to use it, kind of more room temperature rather than cold water. It will shock your system a little bit, which wouldn't be good for you. Feet are hip distance apart. I'll let the hands float towards the sky as I breathe in. Keeping the ribs down, belly in. Hands come into the heart, into exhale. Forwards from the hips, softening the knees as we do so. Taking the breath and stepping the right foot back into a lunge. I want to be on the fingertips. Check the front knee stays over the ankles. Relax the shoulders back a little bit. We'll press out through that back leg so it's strong and powerful. We'll drop the back heel down onto the center line, ready for warrior 2. Bring hands alongside the body. Move the right arm forwards. Press into the front shin and leg to lift up. Let's come high. We'll lengthen out towards the front of the mat. Hold ourselves about halfway. Back foot is still on the ground, pressing down. I'm trying to bring the hips towards the center line a little bit if they've popped out to the side. And then bring the hands down to the floor. We'll step it back into our down dog. And come forwards into the plank. We'll take half plank and up dog. So push forwards on the tippy toes. Ribs and elbows meet, bootlaces change. Inhale high, roll the shoulders back. Lift the hips up as we roll over the toes. Our down dog. We'll scissor the right leg high. Draw the knee in towards the chest as we come into the tippy toes and squeeze the knee in. Use the next exhale to bring the foot through to the front of the mat. As best you can, line the toes and the fingertips. Still pressing out through the back leg, so that back leg is strong and active. And then we can take a breath on the exhale to push off the toes into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. We'll take the next side, slow again. Inhale high. And through the heart. Exhale down to the floor, a little softness in the knees as the weight goes into the toes. Take a breath, left leg back. Placing it ready for your warrior 2. Drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Little lift. Try and keep the hips underneath you rather than letting them pop out to the side. Drive through the front leg to lift up. Relax the shoulders a little. So look out through that middle finger on the front hand. Slowly draw the hands high. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Lengthen out halfway. Bring the hips underneath. Press the back foot flat to the floor. Then ease the hands down to the ground. Step it back into our dog. Take the breath into plank. Exhale into the half. Strong legs. Inhale, flat dog. Roll the shoulders back. Lift the hips. Down dog. Swivel the left leg. Tippy toes. And holding the form of your down dog, squeeze your left leg into your body. Take a breath. Use the exhale to come forwards into the lunge. Strong back leg, press out through that heel again. Push off the toes on the exhale into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips, and let ourselves lift. Inhale high again. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Take a breath. Send the right foot back into the lunge, dropping the back knee. And tucking the toes and planting the right hand for stability. We'll float the left hand forwards, up towards the sky, rotating the chest and drawing the thigh of the bent leg in towards the body. Taking the hands towards the back of the mat. And then windmilling the hand down towards the ground again as the chest turns back towards the front of the mat. Arm lifts, chest turns out to the side, just squeeze the knee in again and drops down to the floor. Come round to number 3. Number 4. And number 5. Bring the hands to the ground, onto the fingertips, tuck the toes on the back foot, lift the knee. Into the lunge, we drop the heel down, bring the hands alongside the body, float the right arm forward, lift up into our warrior 2. Take the hands high, gently on the breath in. Continue all the way down to the floor on the single breath. Step back into the down dog. Come forwards into the plank. Half plank, keeping the tummy drawn in. Shoulders roll back a little and out to the side. In the up dog, we move through to our down dog. Scissors the right leg on the breath in. Bring the knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through on the exhale. Push off the back leg. Hands onto the hips. We lift up slow. Next side, inhale high. Hands through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Taking the left foot back, dropping the knee. Left hand plants, right arm comes forwards. We rotate. Remember to draw the knee in a little to the side of the body. Hands come down, float forwards. We breathe in, all the way to the sky. Use the exhale to come down. 2. last time. Let's put the toes on the back foot. Lift the knee, drop the heel in. Warrior two again. Lift as you come up. Float the hands high. Continuous breath to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Plank to half plank and up dog. And there's our left leg for the last time. Knee through. Final lunge. Step into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. Hands wide to the sky, through the heart and down to the floor. We'll move into down dog once we arrive, just as a transition. And then let the knees come to the ground. So we're more or less on all fours. Just going to sit back onto the heels momentarily and take your flat block and just place that behind your toes. Unless you're able to squat flat-footed, that's fine. You can take whichever version you like, but if you like to use a block like I do, tuck the toes underneath. Feet are about as wide apart as the block is wide. Roll the heels onto the block, then turn the toes out so we can sit into a nice deep squat. And then all we're going to do is allow ourselves to rest our arms on top of the knees and draw the tummy muscles in a little bit, and then try and lengthen out from your tailbone through the crown of your head. So you're going to kind of, rather than rounding your spine, you're going to roll the shoulders back a little bit, draw the tummy muscles in, and let yourself sit tall. The idea is to kind of bring the spine into as more a vertical position as you can, rather than leaning forwards, but still in a relaxed enough mode that you can breathe easily and just let the arms hang. They kind of work as a little bit of a counterbalance out there for you. Feel the shape of your spine. And we know there's got lots of curves in it, even when we're standing tall. The imaginary position of the spine is that it is just a long, flat line from the tailbone. And that's what we're trying to move the body sort of millimeter by millimeter into. Perhaps sadly. As we are here for a period of time, you might find that with your breath that your body kind of sways around a little bit, similar to how it feels if you try and stand upright with your feet together. You eventually start to feel like your body's swaying around underneath you. So if you're feeling that, don't worry, that's kind of normal. Okay, we'll let ourselves release from that. And we're going to come back into Shavasana. This will be the more complete version, unless your spine is feeling tired, in which case keep your knees high and feet wide. If you're able to, take the feet out to the corner edges of the mat. Use your hands, shoulders, abdominal muscles to roll your spine gently down to the ground. Slide the heels out along the floor so you keep them contacted. It's easier on your spine. Let yourself wriggle through the hips and the shoulders. A little bit like you've got some salsa moves going on. And let hands come out to the sides. Now, If you have your hands about a ruler's distance away from your body, it gives a little bit of room for the heat to move from your armpits out of your body, which just today is going to feel very nice. Actually, sitting here, it feels like I've got a radiator on full blast next to me. I know it's not, but that's the feeling the room's got at the moment. So it's a nice welcome break to sit right back down onto the floor. Eyes are closed, licking the lips, letting the shoulders relax. And through the spine, those muscles that worked hard in our back today. Through the hips, into the legs, the thighs, and the hamstrings. Through the knees down into the calves, across the shins, top of the feet, into the toes, sole of the foot. Letting everything, step by step, get a little soft. So it's time to begin to wake up. We'll stretch those fingers and toes as we breathe a little deeper. Allow the wrists and the ankles to begin to move, just to connect the nervous system fully. The breath, the mind, and the body working together. Use that energy to stretch out in any way that feels good to you. And slide one heel at a time towards you. Let the knees drop in towards your body. So take your hands around the shin for a very loose, gentle hug. Bring the spine flat to the ground. Roll carefully over to my right side. And then use the hands to press into the floor and lift up slowly back to a sitting posture. So, slowed down dynamic yoga class for hot summer days. Bring the hands in towards the heart. So close the eyes, taking a longer breath in. Slowly exhale, letting the chin drop. Finding the belly drawn to the spine, simply bow to the floor. And you inhale, let the spine lift. Let the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you for joining me on the mat today. Take care. Hope to see you again soon.